Very good morning, students. How are you all? I hope all of you are fine and safe at your home. Hello, I am Vaibhav Shah and we are discussing chapter number 3 of subject economics, that is the demand, and this will be our lecture number 6. In previous session, we discussed about the explanation of the law of demand with the help of schedule and diagram, in which I have explained the meaning of demand schedule, how it is framed, and the diagram. And with the help of this, we understand that there is always an inverse relationship between price of the product and its demand. After that, we discussed the reason why there is an inverse relationship between price and demand, and in which we are having two main topics or two main reasons between or for the inverse relationship between price and demand, that is income effect and substitution effect. Out of which, in previous session we already discussed about the income effect, and today in this session we are going to start with the topic number 2, that is substitution effect. I hope all of you are enjoying my sessions and understanding what I mean to say. Sometimes it may happen that there will be a gap between understanding level and the explanation level. So anytime if you are feeling this kind of situation, then please feel free to contact me. You may also give comment in a comment section of my channel also, and I will solve all your problems over there, or you can message me personally in my personal number also. But remember one thing, that the concepts of demand and supply is very much important for the further understanding of economics, because these are the basic chapters. As we discussed in chapter number 2 also, some of the important principles and terminologies. Same way, the chapter number 3 is also one of the most important chapter. So I request you to remember or to learn all these things very clearly and don't neglect anything. Now let us start about the substitution effect. Same way, when we discuss the income effect, first of all we have taken the understanding. Here also, substitution effect means two goods which are similar in characteristics and can be used in place of one another. So if there is a change in the price of a particular product, then people or consumer may prefer to purchase substitute product instead of the original product. And that's why it may happen that whenever the price of a particular product will increase, then people will decrease the demand of that particular product and may move towards the purchase substitute goods. So it is the substitution effect. Let us take example again, that there is a change or there is a difference between the price of a tea and coffee. The price of a coffee is almost higher and the price of the tea is lower. Say for example, if we are drinking tea or coffee at some tea stall, then the price of the tea is rupees 7 while the price of the coffee is rupees 10. As I said in earlier lectures also, that in economics we are always studies the behavior of a normal person and not the habitual person. So here also the same thing may happen, that whenever the price will change in tea or coffee, people will respond to it. Say for example, if now there is a change in the price of the tea from rupees 7 to rupees 10, while the price of the coffee is already rupees 10. So now both them is equal. All those people who are consuming tea till the day will now think that if the price of tea and coffee will be the same, then why can't we consume a coffee and not a tea? So now they prefer to consume more of a coffee and less of a tea. So the demand of tea will decrease instead of same price, because initially there is a difference between the price, and that's why, as per the law of demand, when price of the commodity is less, people will prefer to purchase more of it, and when price increases they will purchase less of it. So now in this example, if we survey the tea stall shop, then he will say that initially when the price of tea rupees 7, I always selling 500 cups of tea and only 100 cup of coffee. But now as the price of the tea increases to rupees 10, I am selling 300 cups of tea and 300 cup of coffee. So it means the person who were consuming tea in the initial time period now prefer to consuming a coffee, which is a substitute product, and we can say that by this way, due to this substitution effect, when the price increases, demand decreases and people will prefer to purchase the substitute goods instead of the original goods. And that's why this substitution effect is also one of the reason of the inverse relationship between price and demand. When price of the concerned good falls, it becomes relatively cheaper than its substitutes. Hence, a consumer will reduce the consumption of substitute goods and expand the demand for concerned goods. This is substitution effect. For example, between two varieties of pants, that is trousers, namely a pair of regular cotton or terracotta pants and denim pants, that is jeans. If the price of regular pants falls and that of denim pants remains the same, then consumer find the regular pants cheaper compared to the denim pants and will expand the demand for regular pants. Coconut water and cold drinks. So here totally we are having three different example. First example is about the tea and coffee. Second example is about the pants, and third example is about the coconut water and cold drink. Let us discussing the substitution effect. When price of the concerned good falls, so here in the example of tea and coffee, let us take the price of coffee as the concerned good, or it is the inverse relationship, or we can say, now let us change in the example of tea. Let us consider the example again. Initially the price of tea was rupees 7 and the price of coffee was 10. Now the price of tea reduces to rupees 5 and coffee is same as rupees 10. So with the same amount of rupee, now the people will be able to purchase 2 cups of tea and only 1 cup of coffee. So now let us take this example as a base and discuss the concept. When price of the concerned good falls, that is concerned good means tea. When price of tea falls from rupees 7 to rupees 5, it becomes relatively cheaper than its substitute, because the price of the substitute good, that is of the coffee, is 10 while the price of the tea is rupees 5. Hence, a consumer will reduce the consumption of substitute goods. Now, in this case, if we ask a tea staller, then he will say that initially I was selling 500 cups of tea and 200 cups of coffee. But now, when the price of tea falls to rupees 5, now I am able to sell 650 units of tea and only 50 units of coffee. So, the consumer will reduce the consumption of substitute goods, that is the coffee. In our example, almost 150 cup quantity is reduced, and expand the demand for concerned goods, that is for tea. So, the demand for tea will increase by same 150 cups. This is substitution effect. I hope you are understanding very clearly. Now let us discuss the example number 2. For example, between two varieties of trousers, namely a pair of regular cotton or terry cotton pants and denim pants. Basically in formal clothes which your teachers are wearing most of the times in your school is of the regular or terry cotton pants, while denim pants are of a jeans type of a pants. If the price of regular pants falls and that of denim pants remains the same, then consumer find the regular pants cheaper compared to the denim pants will expand the demand for the regular pants. Say for example, in the initial time, the price of the denim pants is almost 1000 rupees per piece, and at that time the price of the regular pants will be 750. Due to some other factors, now the price of the regular pants will become a 500 and the price of denim will be same as rupees 1000. So in that case, with the same level of income, that is with the same 1000 rupees, a person will be able to purchase only one denim pant while two pants of a regular type. So here they will expand the demand for regular pants and the demand for denim pant will reduce. Same thing happened with the coconut water and cold drinks. Initially the coconut water was rupees 20 per unit and cold drinks was rupees 15. So people may prefer to more cold drink, but now when the price reduce of coconut from rupees 20 to 15, then people will prefer to purchase a coconut water instead of a cold drink. So it is a substitution effect which is responsible for the inverse relationship between price of the product and demand of that particular product. I hope you clearly got both this point. Now let us move towards the next topic, that is exceptions to the law of demand. Exceptions means these are the goods which are usually not following the normal law of demand. Like the normal law of demand is of inverse nature, that is when the price increases, demand decreases and vice versa. While the exceptional goods are following a direct relationship, that is when price increases, demand will also increase, and when price decreases, demand will also decrease. Basically 90% of the good in real world are of a normal nature and they are following the inverse relationship between price and demand. But only 10% goods are exceptions which are not following the usual law of demand, and that's why these 10% goods are called exceptions. And we have to learn this topic also while we are discussing the law of demand. Exceptions to the law of demand means that when price of a good falls, its demand contracts instead of expanding and vice versa. Thus, a price change creates demand to change in opposite direction than that indicate in the law of demand. Some exceptions to the law of demand are stated below. So as we discussed that exceptions to the law of demand means that when price of a good fall, basically normal goods, when price of a good fall, then its demand will expands. But in exception case, when a price of a good falls, its demand contracts instead of expanding. And vice versa means when price increases, that demand also expanding instead of contracting. So thus a price change creates demand to change in opposite direction than that indicated in the law of demand. Basically in law of demand it is indicated that there is an inverse relationship, but here there is a direct relationship between these two goods, so that we can say this: these goods are the exceptions to the law of demand, and some exceptions to the law of demand are stated below. Basically, there are four types of exceptions. First one is prestigious goods. Second one is extremely low priced goods. Third one is given goods. And fourth one is special preference of goods. Now let us start discussing these all points one by one, and starting with the first point, that is prestigious goods. Certain goods which are priced very high and are generally consumed by very rich people, like expensive jewelry, expensive cars, expensive mobile phones, etc., are exceptions to the law of demand. Such goods are used by the rich as status symbol, and hence, even when there is a rise in their price, their demand expands instead of contracting. And if their price falls, the rich may contract their demand, thinking that fall in price means that the good is losing its prestige. So prestigious goods means all those goods which are used as a status symbol. And basically, people thinks that if your status symbol is different than other, then you will be termed as a more richer than other peoples, and that's why when the price of the particular thing will increase, then people will demand more of it and not less of it. Basically, the normal law of demand says that when the price of the particular product will decrease, then people will increase its demand. But in prestigious goods, say for example the diamonds, when the price of the diamonds increases, then people will purchase more of it and not less of it. Say for example, in nowadays the price of the gold is almost reaches about to 55,000 per 10 grams, that is 5,500 per gram. Initially, before 3 months, the price was almost nearest about 42 to 43,000. Now, when the price reaches to a very high extent, that is up to 55,000, that is almost 12,000 rupees increase per 10 gram of gold. Its demand increasing instead of decreases, because people termed to wear the gold as a more prestigious than any other metal, and they're demanding more of it and not less of it. Basically, this type of rich people in the context of Indian economy is very less, and that's why they are only 10 to 15% people who are doing this kind of behavior, but their behavior is contrary to the normal law of demand, that is the inverse relationship, and hence it is called as an exception to the law of demand. Now let us discuss the thing which is given in your textbook, that is certain goods which are priced very high and are generally consumed by very rich people. First thing that clearly mentioned over here is that only certain things, and which are very priced very high, that even a normal or average people will not even think to buy it, because it is not in their budget and they are not able to purchase it, and generally consumed by very rich people. One thing is to remember here is that these goods are not at all necessity. They are only used as a prestige and status quo. Like expensive jewelry, that is the jewelry of gold, then platinum, and of a diamond. Expensive cars, that is all the luxurious cars over and above the price of rupees 15 to 20 lakh to up to 5 crore and 10 crore rupees. Expensive mobile phones, that along with the Apple iPhone, different types of OnePlus and other mobiles which are expensive and are consumed by a very few people or a very rich people, are exception to the law of demand, because basically this type of goods is not affordable for a normal, average or below average people, And this expensive jewelry, expensive cars, and expensive mobile phones are for rich people only. Such goods are used by rich as status symbol, or we can say they can be used as a status quo. In many of the Indian movies also shows that a person with a very high or demanded necklace or a very high price jewelry will be termed as a very rich people. And in higher societies also they are usually wearing different types of precious jewelries to show their status symbol and their status quo. And hence, even when there is a rise in their price, their demand expands instead of contracting, which we are experiencing in today's gold price. The price of the gold since few weeks is increasing day by day, and it is now nearest about 55,000 per 10 grams of a gold. Still, many of the people are purchasing it because now to wearing a precious jewelry of gold is become a status symbol, and people termed as more richer if they are purchasing and using this type of precious metals. So when there is rise in their price, their demand expands instead of contracting. And if their price falls, like the price of other metals, because the silver is also rising day by day, and if the price of this good falls, then rich may contract their demand, thinking that a fall in price means the good is losing its prestige, because when the price will fall, it is no longer a prestigious or a status symbol goods. And then when price decreases, people will demand less of it, and when price increases, people will demand more of it. The same thing, or we can say one kind of disaster happened with the Tata Nano also. Basically, at the time of launching of Tata Nano, Ratan Tata declared that this type of car is for the middle class people who are having a dream to have a car, but they are not able to afford a high class car, and that's why we are giving an opportunity that their dream comes true. And the tragedy is that in India, no one is feeling that they are middle class or lower class, and that's why the Tata Nano is failed at all in the market, because high rich class people are not they are not willing to purchase it because their price is very low, and it is not termed as a status symbol because anyone can purchase it, and the middle and lower class not willing to purchase it because its price is very clearly mentioned in the public, and public will think that it is a cheaper car, so they prefer to purchase a two-wheeler instead of a four-wheeler. And that's why when the good is not termed as a prestigious goods, it is not following the prestige value and status symbol, and that's why people are not preferring to purchase a Tata Nano, and which becomes a disaster. So this type of goods is following a direct price and demand relationship. That is, when the price of the particular good increases, its demand increases instead of decreasing, and when price falls, its demand is also falls instead of increasing, and that's why it is termed as a exceptions to the law of demand. Extremely low priced goods. Certain goods are extremely low priced goods, and hence the entire consumption expenditure on such goods forms a very small proportion of the consumer's income. For example, pins, stapler pins, etc. Even if their price rises, a consumer's demand for these goods may not contract, and if their price falls, the consumer may not expand demand, as she or he may not need more of such goods. Extremely low price goods means all that goods which possess a very small portion of any person's budget. And if there is double or tripling in the price of that particular goods, then also it doesn't affect the demand or the budget of that particular person very highly. Say for example, this example given in your textbook is pins, stapler pins, along with that the buttons that used in the shirts, salt, matchbox, etc., which are very low price goods. That, say for example, the price of a matchbox is rupees 1. Normal person who are living in a city required almost 10 matchboxes a year for different purposes. So if the price increase from rupees 1 rupees to rupees 3, then also the total expense behind that particular matchbox is from rupees 10 rupees to 30 rupees only. Same way the stapler pin, 5 rupees pack is having almost 20 stapler pins in it. If their price doubles and if it becomes a 10 rupees per box, then also maximum requirement of a boxes is 10 boxes a year. It means initially they were expending 50 rupees and now they are spending rupees 100. So it doesn't make any of the difference in the demand of a person. So if their price will double and triple, then also their demand will not decrease and it increases, because the minimum quantity of this good is necessary for any of the person. Now let us discuss this point. Certain goods are extremely low price goods, as we discussed that pins, stapler pin, salt, matchboxes, etc. Hence the entire consumption expenditure on such goods forms a very small proportion of the consumer's income. Say for example, if we taken all together the pins, stapler pins, matchboxes, salt and buttons, then during a 1 year period a family of almost 3 to 4 person will spend maximum rupees 1000 behind it. It is the maximum limit, because the requirement of matchbox and button is very negligible. That is almost 50 rupees for this type of good. And if we are using a very high priced salt, then also, so all these combined will be of only the 1000 consumption expenditure, and it is a very small proportion of a consumer's income. For example, pins, stapler pins, etc. Even if their price rises, that is if their price will doubled or tripled, then also consumers' demand for these goods may not contract. That means that demand will not decrease. And if their price fall, that if their price will be half or less than half, then also the consumer may not expand demand, because it is a very negligible expenditure, and by doubling or tripling it, it doesn't make any sense for that consumer, so as she or he may not need more of such goods. So we can say that extremely low price good is also exceptions, where if their price increases, then also their demand will increase, and if their price decreases, then instead of increasing its demand, their demand will be same as. So we can say that the demand for this type of a particular good is same as whether the price increasing or decreasing. Basically, in normal law of demand, if price increases, then demand will decrease, and if price decreases, then demand will increase. But here in this case of extremely low price goods, demand will be steady as it is if price increases or decreases. So we can say that it doesn't responding at all to the price changes, and that's why it is the exceptions of the law of demand. The third one is a given goods, and fourth one is a special preference of people. We'll discuss these 2 points in a next session. Today we discussed the analysis, that is the reasons for inverse relationship between price and demand, and in that we discussed the second point, that is substitution effect, and in exceptions to the law of demand we discussed 2 points, that is prestigious goods and extremely low price goods. I suggest you to read and understand these points twice or thrice to make it very clear, and so you will be able to write it in your examination. And please make a habit of writing each and every concept of subject economics and OC, because basically the board pattern is of a lengthy nature and you have to write each and everything in a properly manner. So if you starting from today itself, then it will be helpful after 1 year in your board examination also. So we'll start from third point on next lecture. Till that, have a nice day and thank you very much, class.